Hi guys, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It, episode 3. We'll be here today talking about mental health. And today I want to introduce my friends with me. Let's go ahead, y'all. Introduce yourself to the world.
I'm Salleya Woody.
I'm Dr. Kerr.
I'm Marcia Cooper.
And I'm Lateaka Moultrie.
Awesome. I want to thank you ladies for coming today. Talking about mental health awareness is so important that we talk about this. Knowing that we have a lot of things going on. We had the shooting in Buffalo, New York, and we also had the shooting in Texas for the young kids. I think it was like 19 children and 2 teachers, if I'm not mistaken. And right now, it's a lot for the world. You know, and I think we all suffer with mental health issues. And, you know, because all this going on in the world today, you got to think about it. It's like we're robots. We got to go on and say, okay, you know, this happened. Let's get over it. We pray for the people, we pray for their families, but it's like the world wants you to get over it, go on to the next thing.
Right.
So, and my question is today, how do you feel about all the shootings, you know, just mental health, period? Anybody?
Well, mental health, overall, it's something that can impact somebody emotionally, psychologically, behavioral, as well as socially, right? So we as a people have to be aware and be able to identify when we are suffering with mental health issues or situations, because it's not always necessarily apparent as others. Some can be very, very, very severe, right? Mental health issues, but then you have some that are not as severe. So you would think that, oh, well, I don't have an issue or anything. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's okay to be not okay. You know what I mean? And when you feel like you need someone to talk to, and I think that's, part of within this world that a lot of people are ashamed to go and get help.
Right.
But basically, that is one of the stepping stones or parts, is being able to seek out somebody, a professional help. There's other materials, books, there's motivational things on YouTube. There's so many ways that people can get help. But I would definitely say a professional in that field, a therapist, a psychologist, anything like that, to be able to talk to someone that you can release what's going on in your mind. So that way you can get a different perspective and feel a little better and get that off your chest, because you can't always talk to the people that are close to you, because some of the things that you might be thinking or feeling, people may think that you're like, no, that, you're kind of crazy. No, and you're not crazy. You are not crazy. There's so many things that people are feeling and thinking in this world. They just don't want to share it because they don't know how they're going to be perceived on the other end. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's so good.
Yeah.
Also, the reality is when you think of people in my day and age, it was something that you weren't supposed to do. Because that stigma, what goes on in the house, stays in the house, has hurt so many people. I mean, you had kids that were getting raped, but they weren't supposed to tell it. But yet, then they're supposed to grow up to be these wonderful adults, but they can't because they're still holding on to the things that broke them.
Right.
You cannot build from brokenness.
No,
It has to heal.
That's right.
And right now, parents we're using so many different things to raise our kids that we forget the core of a foundation. You have to have the conversations with your children.
You really do.
Like mine right now, he's older, but the little kids that's growing up today, they're in school with kids that are, I may be a female when I look at you, but I want to be a male.
Right.
So how do you explain to a child that doesn't get that in their home?
Right.
Now it has to be taught when you're in elementary school, because in elementary school, it's okay.
Right.
And again, the problem is it's okay for you to have gender specifics, but you can't pray in school.
Right.
Okay. Exactly.
But yet our money says, in God we trust. So who are we really trusting? So these are the things that aren't talked about, that need to be talked about. And the reality of it is, church has come out of the homes as well.
Right.
And it's not about going to church or affiliating with whatever denomination, but it's about having a foundation and believing in the God that made you. And those are some of the things that really need to be addressed in this society.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Talk about it.
I definitely love that you talked on that topic of when we were coming up, that mindset that we had to keep what goes on in this house stays in this house. And I understand that as a parent. I really do get that. But at the same time, at what point, do we kind of let go of some of what was taught within reason to make room for who we are, to make room for this world? Because I know that we tell our children certain things to prep them for this world. You don't want to say everything, certain things you shouldn't talk about that's within the home. But at the same time, there has to be some understanding that there has to be an avenue for conversations to take place, because we'll grow up thinking that we can't talk about things.
Right.
And we don't make peace with things that we've been through in our life. And I think that's a lot of what's given birth to so many mental health issues, is the holding on and not feeling like you're allowed or should talk about anything without being judged,
Right.
And feeling guilt, also. So it's definitely needed to be talked about for sure.
Yeah. You?
Me? Well, I feel like talking can help. It definitely can help. And I feel like that just thinking about, I'm in this by myself. I'm alone, so nobody understands.
Right.
And going back to what we were taught growing up, now we're raising kids in a whole different light. So we have to talk to our kids. We have to let them know it's okay to talk about things.
Exactly.
So mental health plays a big part in just, I can't talk to nobody. We can't talk about this, or we can't talk about that.
Right.
And I feel that does play a part, not being able to talk about certain things or scared to talk about certain things.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I wanted to, here's a question I had to ask about mental health. Y'all don't judge me. Don't judge me. What is mental health? What is mental health?
Good question.
Yeah, so kind of mental health is dealing with a person's, how they emotions, how they're feeling, how they interact with others, how they respond and how they react to different things that are going on. But that's all dealing with emotional, psychological, social, behavioral awareness, right? So if a person does have those mental health capacities or that situation, how they react or relate to other people, how they respond is going to be different than another person who doesn't necessarily have that challenge in their life, right? But I think to some extent, the way things are going, like we're still kind of in a pandemic to some extent at this point. And I think that has played, within this century, a major part on people's life, because we are meant to be able to socialize and interact with people on a daily basis, right? But when that occurred, now we're like confined in our home, and we're not able to go outside because, we can catch this, COVID, or, catch this situation that's going on. And so it's due to protection, which we all understand, but it brings a kind of like an anxiety over people, because now like some people still are not going outside. There's some people that are literally just calling like DoorDash or Uber or however they get their groceries, and they're staying inside. So they're unsocializing, right, with people. And then when they start to go out and start to kind of, now it's kind of awkward. Does that make sense? Like they don't really know how to socialize with other people around them, because now they have been separated from it for such a time frame, right? So now it's getting readjusted to being able to be around people, being able to socialize with people, and interact with others, and being able to talk about it too, because there's a lot of things that that have occurred, and everyone has different things that go on in their life. But being able to talk about it, to be able to, like I said, release it, and it kind of also, some of it goes into like stress and burnout. Mental health deals with a lot of that too, but it's being able to know how to release it and being able to how to cope with that situation, how to mitigate it, right? Because if you don't know how to mitigate it, that's when it starts to build up. And it comes to the point of people getting to the point of committing suicide and things of that nature, right? Because they feel like there's no light to the end of their tunnel. Like, this situation is consistently ever going to go on, and they're not able to get out of this rut.
That's how you feel. Yeah.
It's that heavy burden, right? Absolutely. And you can't get it off of you. You know what I mean? And that's a feeling that we don't want anyone to feel like, you know what I mean? So if you need that assistance, find someone to talk to. And there's so many ways you can do that.
And that's good. But then it comes down to money.
It's a good thing. Question that you just said. Because there's tons of, yes, everything costs money, right? Nothing's for free. We know that, right? But there are places that are, here in our state as well as other states that go off of what do they call that? Sliding scale. So off of your income. There are therapy centers around like that, that, you tell them how much your income is and they'll tell you how much it is. I've actually, and I'll be honest and upfront, like, yes, I see a therapist because I know that I'm able to talk to someone and release that information to someone else and get a different perspective.
And that's okay.
Yes, and that's why
it's okay.
Exactly. And it's great to me because it's like, I never thought about looking at it that way. You know what I mean? It gives you a whole different perspective on how to look at the situation. But the way that I found that person was through, like I said, the sliding scale. So like I told whatever my income was, and then they told me how much the cost was. I mean, it could be as low as $10 and up. I mean, and not saying that that's not a lot of money because it depends on the person's budget, right? But you can get some therapy for as low as, that much and whatever. Of course, it's based on your income, right?
But not to cut you off, but it's doing the work. If you want it, you'll do the work.
Exactly.
Got to do the work.
Yeah.
So how can we put that out there more as a group?
Say that again.
It's financial. A lot of people don't have that financial, stability. So how can we put that out there as a community?
Well, I feel like right now with this is one way.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about, different situations and scenario, somebody's going to get something from this.
Right, exactly.
Just us talking about it.
Right.
And with me, I've been through a lot throughout my life, but I know my health is my friends, my close friends that I can open up and talk about it. And just like you said, Dr. Kerr, being able to get another perspective on, it's not just this side, it's another side, just looking at it as a circle. Okay, it be going around, but I didn't go all the way around the circle. So I think just talking about it, I get my release and my mental health release from talking to my friends, basically.
Right. And that's definitely a good resource. And actually, that's probably going to be one of the first resources people are going to go to is go to your friends, your family, or someone you feel like you can trust to talk to.
Somebody
honestly,
who's not gonna judge you.
I've been myself. Yeah, definitely. You do not want to feel judged when you are releasing what's inside. Nobody wants to feel judged at all. And that's why people go to who they go to. But it's important that when you're finding someone to release to, you're finding someone that can actually help get you out of what you're feeling. Not someone that's just going to let you loathe, but someone that's going to try to help you. And the work is the work that you have to want. If you have to want to come out of it, because sometimes somebody can pour their soul into trying to help you, but you're not even trying to get better. I need you to try, because I've been there. I've been so low, and I've had relatives and family and friends that have tried to pour into me, and I've been so down that I feel like at that moment that y'all don't understand. You're not understanding. But you have to want to try to desperately get out of it. You have to want to find something in there. Find a seed that's just for you and run with the seed that works.
Absolutely.
You know, and I also think that there needs to be a lot more services, government services. This subject of mental health is becoming more and more talked about, but it's still not being talked about enough because people are still scared. But I do notice that there is a trend of people becoming more open and talking about it than it ever has been. Because I remember when I had to make the decision when I was going through postpartum, and I literally had that time when I was looking at a bottle of Tylenol sitting next to my husband thinking, I can swallow these right now. He don't even know what I'm going through, but it's in my head. And at that moment, what I was afraid of is the same thing everyone in my family was afraid of. We witnessed mental health sickness in my family. My mom struggled with that. I have family members who literally I watched, and it plagued me my whole life. I didn't want to be like that. And I was scared of medicine. I'm scared of doctors judging you, putting you in a mental hospital, any of that. You don't want to talk about anything pertaining to it. And so when I went through that, it was a crucial time because I was contemplating. I didn't know that I was sick. I didn't know that I was going through postpartum depression. I had no idea. I felt genuinely bombarded with life itself for some reason. And I had to make the decision because I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I honestly feel like I really am contemplating and thinking about my demise of not wanting to. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I didn't want to be present in the world anymore because I felt like living is harder. I mean, dying is easier than living. That's how I felt. And so I decided I had to make a tough decision. And that tough decision for me was to say something to my OB/GYN. They always had to ask me about questions pertaining to my mental health. I never answered honestly ever in my life. I'm not about to say that, so y'all can judge me.
Exactly.
That's what we're all afraid of. If you keep it real, let's talk about it. But I got to a point where this is above me. Something's wrong. I need help, and I know it. Because now I'm at the point where I'm on my second baby. I have a husband, and I'm going crazy, and I'm thinking that I don't want to be here no more. People are trying to talk me, and as a matter of fact, when I got so like that, I wanted to separate myself from anybody. Because you start thinking about the energy that you're giving off. You don't want to give off bad energy. And don't nobody want your bad energy too. A lot of times you're thinking about they don't want to hear it. I went to my OB. I trust her with I trust her down there, so I might as well trust her with a little secret. The little secret is I don't feel good. And I do need help. Please don't judge me. That's why it's in trust. You have to trust who you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I opened up, it was against everything in my life that I've ever known. I went against it. But it was for the betterment of myself. I was trying. That was me trying. I was at a low place, and I was trying to help myself. When you don't know what to do, anything is better than pulling the trigger on your own life. Anything is better. I don't care what you're afraid of with whatever you're dealing with. Anything is better than taking your life. Talk about it to anybody. Take anybody and get it off of your chest.
A lot of that is going on too.
It's
going on, and it's a real thing.
It is.
And then kids too.
Yeah,
because they feel like they can't talk to anybody or you won't understand. But the first thing, just like she said earlier, is when you can admit to yourself that you need help, that's a start.
That's a start.
It's a start.
That's right.
That's right. I have personally had 2 times in my life. When I was young, I was in 8th grade, and my parents were divorced. And at that time, I found out something about my family that made me feel like I wasn't wanted. I was abandoned, not once, but twice, by people that should have been there for me. And I just felt like it would be better if I wasn't here. like life would be better for them.
Right.
And a lot of times you hear people say when people commit suicide, it's selfish. It's not selfish because in their heads, they're the problem.
Right.
You might think of that, but even when, like, obviously I didn't succeed. I took a bottle of muscle relaxers while at school, and I had left letters for everybody in my family. But the thing was, one of the things someone said to me was, "How could you do this to me?"
Yeah.
And that was my thing. I never felt like I was enough. Then when I tried to take my life, it still was about you.
Right.
Like, you didn't know enough to still pour into me so that I could be better. And then when they sent me to a therapist, I felt like, if I don't talk to you, what makes me think I'm going to talk to them? And I kind of just sat there and looked at the lady. 1 hour, once a week. So she finally was like, if you don't say anything, we're going to put you in the hospital. That's always their reaction to everything.
Yeah.
So I started to respond, but I was a smart aleck kid. So she asked me a question. I repeated the question.
Right.
You said I had to talk. You didn't say what I had to say, right? So, I mean, it got to the point where my parents were like, let's just stop because she's not going to.
Right.
And to get over it, I really didn't get over it. I pushed it to the back of my head. When I had my son, I went through postpartum. But instead of seeing myself hurting me, I saw myself hurting him. And I knew I couldn't hurt him, so I'd preferably hurt myself. I had a C-section, so I had so many feelings. And well, this event taught me that God has purpose for me.
Yes.
Because I took 2 bottles of pills, and I did not sleep for over 72 hours. After I took the pills, I got a call from my pastor at the time, and he said, "What'd you do?" And I thought he was asking what was I doing.
Right.
So I told him, I was like, I'm at the computer. I'm, looking up stuff for school. And he goes, "No, that's not what I asked you." I said, "What did you do?" And it broke me. The last time it happened, I literally went to postpartum for almost 2 years. Because I tried to say something to my mother. And she told somebody else, and then that person called me. And then I felt like I can't trust it. Like, why are you telling other people? And then now they think something's wrong with me. So I didn't say anything. When it got really bad, I drove myself to the hospital and told them I wanted to check myself in.
Wow.
And as I stood in there, waiting, the lady was like, "Okay, I'll be back." I filled out some paperwork. She was like, "I gotta get some other stuff for you to sign." She walked out, and I heard God say, "How many times have I not been there for you?" And I froze. And he was like, "Just trust me." The lady walked back in, and I was like, "I'm good." I walked out. From that day forth, I've been good. I don't know. A couple of years ago, I got a therapist and started, when you say you have to do the work,
You got to do that footwork.
you have to face those things. You have to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
It's not always the people that did it to you. It could be the things that was said that you took to root in your mind and kept it. They don't even remember saying that to you. At some point, you have to take responsibility for yourself. I am 43 years old. There is no need for me to be upset at somebody for something they said to me when I was 8. Because at this point, they're no longer responsible. Because I need to take whatever they said and realize that that's not who I am. Who gave you that authority to decide who I was? You don't get to judge me. Just like I don't get to judge you in your situation because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
Talk about it.
by looking at me, you can't tell I have an autoimmune disorder. Part of that autoimmune disorder says that you deal with depression. It's like I fight every day. I'm fighting pain every day. But I refuse to allow something that has no control to control it. Because in my head, because of my spiritual walk,
Your mental.
God has the final say.
That's right.
So even when I feel like I don't want to do this anymore, God has to say, hey, we got here. So we can make it. It depends on what you're doing to feed yourself. If you're not feeding yourself and surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people to help you grow, then you'll stay where you are and die. In order to grow, you have to continue to feed yourself with things that are going to help you grow. That's the only way we as a people, like, I shouldn't have a problem with you because I walk by and you're cute and I'm like, ugh. I don't really like her because she cute. You know what I'm saying? Because that dress she got on. We are supposed to uplift each other. If we were all the same, this world would be terrible. God specifically made us as individuals, specifically and intricately made you to be who he wanted you to be. So love who he made so that you can grow and be who he wants you to be.
All right.
So we got to get to the root of a thing. Everybody likes to avoid the big topics. Yes, it happens. People commit suicide. But you know why they committed suicide? Because you missed something. Just like the boy parents didn't go in his room to see he had guns and paraphernalia up. You missed something. We laugh and say, you know, if it's black people, we'd have been in our kids' room. Ain't no closed doors. Ain't no. But what are you seeing on your kids' phones and iPads now? Are you getting into that stuff? Are you watching who they're interacting with? You have to know these things because if not, the generation that's supposed to take care of us ain't gonna be here.
You gotta get involved. You gotta be there.
You have to talk to your kids. You have to have. Me and my son have something called, all right, it's check-in. What's going on? You can say whatever you want to say. You can express, if I make you mad, tell me I made you mad. Tell me how I made you mad. So then we can discuss it. Because what I don't want is him to ever feel the way I did enough, to feel like he's not enough, to not want to be here.
That's good. That's really good. And I do want to piggyback off of some of what you were saying because you know what? It really does go back to putting in the work. Really putting in that work. When I say that thing is a muscle that you must build, nobody really wants to do the work because when you get in that state of mind, it's really weak and vulnerable. Nobody don't even feel like doing the work, right?
But it takes strength to be vulnerable. That's what people don't realize.
It does.
It takes strength to be vulnerable.
And you have to be to get through. Honestly, it's not a weakness. People look at that as a weakness. It's not a weakness. So that's why I'm always saying, brown girls, we have a different set of things. Culturally, we were grown and raised under very similar cultural things that's being told to us, and we were brought up with a certain mindset that we can, you know, relate to. And I think when we're talking about kids and our children and the generation that's coming up, that's the reason why I think this mental health is coming up more, is because the generation underneath us is doing a lot of they're committing suicide, and we can't understand why. These babies are under pressure. They don't feel like they can talk about certain things because we grew up under these, like the, you know, what goes on in our house stays in our house, but also I'm grown. That whole I'm grown, you the child, stay in your place, you do what I said, do not what you see, and you don't want to hear them. You act like they're being minor or being younger than you, and you being so you arrived because you're grown, that what they go through and what they say is a little irrelevant. It's not. You have to give them a little freedom of expression
because they have feelings. When we were kids, we weren't allowed to have feelings.
But we know you cannot forget how you felt as a child when they would handle you like that. And that's my thing. You can never forget where you came from. Because I remember growing up, I grew up without my mothers. My mom passed when I was 11 years old. And so I grew up without my birth mother. I was a lot to deal with as a child. I was an absolute handful, ridiculous. And everybody who got their hands on me was like, I ain't your mother. I'm going to beat you. You know, I'm going to get you. I ain't your mom. I'm going to get you. You know? And so I felt like everybody was out to get me growing up. That's all I felt. And so every time somebody was trying to correct where I was going wrong, I felt so misunderstood growing up. I felt sorry for myself as a child. It may be rightfully so. However, I held a lot of grudge with the people that I grew up with in my heart. I felt like they're the reason why I'm like this. And I started to blame my past. I used to question my past. I wasn't good enough. Why weren't you there for me like this? I felt like I needed you like that, and you were there for me like this. And it hurt, and now I'm hurt, and you're the reason why I'm like this. But you know what? As I became an adult and I started having children, and I started seeing how life happens, how it happens, and it evolves. When I was a child, I think like a child. I was thinking as a child. But now that I'm grown, I see that the people who tried to raise me, they were just doing their best. They were just trying to get me along the best way they knew how. And even though it hurt me, I have to understand that they were just trying. And so I forgive them, even though it hurt. But guess what? It didn't kill me.
No.
It molded me into who I am, which helps me understand a little bit better how to raise my kids. So for that reason, I'm grateful for the pain that I had to go through to get to this point. Because maybe if I didn't go through that, maybe if you didn't put me through that, I'd be in a different place. You understand? That's how you learn to come to peace with your past, because if you see how the past has shaped you, even though it hurt, it hurt it. Oh, it hurt it. But who did it shape you into, though? That part. And that's how, and when you, instead of just holding on to the grudge, what's the point of holding on to it? It actually takes more energy to hold on to the grudge than to decide to be at peace with something. You know what? I made it through it. And I made it through it. It hurt a lot, and I had a road that I didn't desire, maybe certain things that I could have did, I didn't take advantage of, could have been, but you're here still. And you can still make so many changes in your life, long as you're still here. It shaped you, you know?
Yes. Yeah, that's
mental health. Mental health. And in that I was saying, like, to go along when you first asked us to describe what mental health is, I was thinking, you know, it's not just the uglies. It's not just the uglies. It's literally life gets very disgusting. Life is like soil. Life is soil. We're the seed that's in it trying to grow through it. When the seed is in the soil, it's beginning to sprout. You think when that seed starts to bud through that soil, it has to toil through the soil to get to the top. That's what I imagine. It's a journey, right? It's a journey to there.
Yes, right? Yes. That's good. I love that analogy, girl. Yeah, girl. That's right. Yes.
But you know, it's just a matter of. That's why I was saying, like, mental health is not all just about the uglies, really. It's how you're handling life. Your ability to handle what's coming at you. Because one thing for sure is that you can't stop negative things from happening to you. You can't stop people from doing you wrong, saying something wrong, coming at you the wrong way. And sometimes people don't even know they're doing it, to be honest with you. You be sitting there your whole life and flipped upside down. And they don't even know they did something.
Exactly.
You're causing your own demise.
Exactly.
I promise you, mental health is how you're coming. How do you deal with life when it's coming at you? You have to find ways to cope, and everybody's coping mechanisms are really different. But I think, you know, really, as if you're a person who is a confidant, like someone who confides in you, I really tip my hat off to people who really take in a lot of that. And I also would like to caution people who take in so much. That person who takes in everybody's situation those people I feel like those people I feel like should watch their mental health. You're absorbing other people's energy. I remember, I'm gonna tell this story and I'm gonna pass this thing on. I remember when I had to make that decision to stop being so open to everyone's ear. And it was because I deemed that I'm not a good listener, even though everybody thought that I was a good listener. I was the one, me and my cousins are very close. My friends, we are all very close. Anything that they laid on me, I wanted to hear it, but I felt it afterwards. And when I would hang up the phone or leave their presence, I would feel so heavy, feeling like I had to change their burden.
Right.
And I would feel like I needed to be the change that they needed. This person needs a break, Lord, and I got to be the one to do it. But I was there for them just to listen. But at the time, I wasn't a good listener because what I was doing was taking it all in, and I was trying to fix it. I was trying to deal with it. You gotta take it, allow them to give it to you, but you gotta lay it to the side and let it go. Do something positive with it. You can do something positive with it. Store it. Don't store it all up in here. Go ahead and pray about the thing, meditate on the thing, exercise on the thing, or you can just let it just fall by the side because you were there for them to allow them to get it out. And a lot of times that is just enough.
That's all
you need to do. But the person who takes it all in is the people that I concern myself with because they take it in and they feel like they can never give it to anybody else. They don't put their own issues on the table. You have to be mindful of those. And some of us are raising kids like that. And you have to be mindful of your babies if they're like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just saying.
You might want to help, but you can help in another way.
Right.
Hold on to it.
Right.
Right. So guys, I just want to say thank y'all so very much.
Yes.
Mental health is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
And it has so many topics.
Yeah.
Let's
We
talk
can go
about
another
it.
time. We definitely have to have a part 2,
Yes.
3, or 4.
Yeah.
It should be a season.
Yes,
This is a conversation that should never stop.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I want to thank Salleya Woody,
Dr. Kerr, Lateaka Moultrie, and I have to thank my sister, Marcia Cooper, for coming through. You know, she was in pain, but she made it. She did. In spite of, she made it. She had surgery and she made it. So I want to say thank you for that. And so again, guys, I want to say thank y'all for coming on Let's Talk About It, episode 3. We'll have it aired soon. Talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, you're supposed to be at the computer.